Jake Morrison's arms trembled as he dropped into his 100th burpee. Sweat dripped onto the polished metal floor of the training hall, forming small puddles beneath him. His heart hammered against his ribs so hard, he thought everyone in the room could hear it. The muscles in his legs screamed for mercy, but he pushed up anyway, jumping at the top of the movement before dropping back down. "Cadet Morrison, I ordered you to stop at 50. Instructor Vexner's voice boomed across the hall. The Corellian stood nearly 8 feet tall, his forearms crossed over his massive chest. His skin had a gray metallic sheen that made him look like a living statue. "You will cease this exercise immediately." Jake sucked in a breath and did another burpee. 101. The other cadets had stopped their own training to watch. Over 300 aliens from 40 different species stood in small clusters around the enormous training facility. Some whispered to each other in languages Jake didn't understand. Others simply stared with wide eyes or whatever they used to see. Lyra, his Velsharan study partner, stepped forward. Her blue skin had gone pale with worry. "Jake, please stop. Your body cannot handle this." 102. Jake's vision blurred at the edges. The Academy's medical sensors built into his training uniform would be going crazy right now. His heart rate had to be off the charts. His body temperature was probably setting off alarms in the medical bay. He didn't care. This morning, he had made the mistake of questioning tactics in advanced combat theory class. Instructor Vexner had been explaining the standard Galactic Defense Force response to shipboarding actions. The protocol called for falling back to secure positions and waiting for reinforcements. Jake had raised his hand and asked a simple question. Why not counterattack while the enemy was still disorganized from the boarding process? The entire class had gone silent. No one questioned instructors at the Galactic Defense Academy. That was the first rule every cadet learned. The second rule was that breaking the first rule meant punishment exercises. Vexner had assigned 50 burpees. Standard discipline for speaking out of turn. But Jake hadn't just spoken out of turn. He had challenged 200 years of accepted military doctrine. He had implied that the galactic military, with all its experience and wisdom, might be wrong about something. 110. Jake's arms gave out on the push-up portion. He collapsed face first onto the floor. For 3 seconds, he lay there, chest heaving. Then he pushed himself up and did another one. "This is insanity," Vexner growled. He turned to his assistant instructor, a thin Arxian named Pelth. "Contact the medical bay. This human is going to injure himself." "Sir, the humans have proven more durable than initial assessment suggested," Pelth said quietly. "Perhaps we should simply let him tire himself out." "He should have tired himself out 30 repetitions ago," Vexner snapped. 120. Jake's lungs burned. Every breath felt like inhaling fire. His muscles had moved past pain into a numb, heavy feeling. He knew he was damaging his body. The Academy's medical scanners knew it too. Soon someone would come and force him to stop, but not yet. Not until he finished what he started. A human voice cut through the murmuring crowd. "Stand down, Morrison." "That's an order." Commander Henry Grant pushed through the gathered cadets. He was the senior human officer at the Academy, the liaison between Earth's military and the Galactic Defense Force. He was also technically Jake's commanding officer. Even though day-to-day training fell under alien instructors, Jake did another burpee. 125. "Lieutenant Morrison," Grant's voice hardened. "I will not ask again." Jake wanted to obey. Grant was a good officer, and Jake respected him. But something in Jake's core refused to quit. This wasn't about the punishment anymore. This wasn't even about the question he had asked in class. This was about every human at this academy. All 20 of them, trying to prove that Earth deserved a place among the stars. Every day, they faced doubt from other species. Every day, they heard whispers about Deathworlders and primitives. Every day, they had to work twice as hard to earn half the respect. 135. Jake's legs shook so badly, he nearly fell during the jump. He caught himself and dropped back down. Vexner moved closer. His shadow fell over Jake like a dark cloud. You are exhibiting signs of cardiovascular distress. Your core temperature is dangerous. Your muscle tissue is beginning to break down. By my authority as senior combat instructor, I am ordering you to stop. 140. Jake's vision tunneled. The edges of the world turned gray. He could only see the floor directly beneath him, marked with his own sweat. He thought about home, Earth, a world the rest of the galaxy considered barely habitable. Too much oxygen, they said. Too much gravity. Too much temperature variation. Too much everything. Humans had evolved in that harsh environment. They had learned to push through pain, to ignore their body's warnings, to keep going when logic said to stop. It was written into their DNA. 150. Jake completed the burpee and stood at attention. His whole body swayed. His legs trembled like leaves in a storm. But he stood. Cadet Morrison reporting ready to continue regular training, sir, he said. His voice came out steady despite the fact that his lungs were screaming. Vexner stared at him. All four of the Krillion's arms had uncrossed. His expression showed something Jake had never seen before. It might have been respect. It might have been fear. Maybe both. You completed 100 additional burpees after being ordered to stop, Vexner said slowly. You understand this is severe insubordination. Yes, sir, Jake said. His legs began to buckle. You understand I will have to file a formal report recommending your dismissal from the academy. Yes, sir. Jake's knees gave out. He started to fall, but he didn't hit the ground. His body locked up, holding him in a half-crouch. Every muscle in his legs spasmed with effort. Somehow, through sheer willpower, he forced himself back to standing. A medical officer rushed forward with a portable scanner. His readings are beyond acceptable limits. I need to get into the medical bay immediately. Can you walk, Morrison? Grant asked quietly. Jake took one step, then another. His legs worked, barely. Yes, sir. The crowd of cadets parted as Jake walked toward the exit. Every step was a battle. His body screamed at him to collapse, to give up, to just lie down on the cool metal floor and rest. He kept walking. Behind him, he heard Lara speaking to another cadet in her native language. The Academy's translator implant converted it to English in his ear. I have never seen such determination. Is this normal for humans? I don't know, the other cadet replied. But it's terrifying. Jake reached the door to the training hall. He turned back one last time. 300 alien faces stared at him. Some looked impressed. Others looked disturbed. Most looked confused. Instructor Vexner hadn't moved. He stood in the same spot, watching Jake with an unreadable expression. Jake saluted, his arm shaking with the effort of lifting it. Then he turned and walked out of the training hall. He made it exactly 15 steps down the corridor before his legs finally gave out completely. He hit the wall and slid down to a sitting position. Grant caught up to him a moment later. The commander looked down at him and shook his head. You just made things very complicated, Lieutenant. Sorry, sir, Jake gasped. No, you're not, Grant said. But there was something in his voice. Pride, maybe. Or hope. Jake closed his eyes and let his head fall back against the wall. His whole body hurt. His muscles felt like they were on fire. His heart still raced even though he was sitting still, but he had finished. 150 burpees. 100 more than ordered. He wondered if it had been worth it. He wouldn't know the answer to that question for several more days. The medical bay smelled like antiseptic and something else Jake couldn't identify. Probably some alien medicine. He sat on the examination table while Dr. Sarah Collins ran a scanner over his body for the third time. Her expression grew darker with each pass. "Your muscle tissue shows significant breakdown," she said. "Your cardiovascular system experienced extreme stress. Your body temperature spiked to dangerous levels." She set the scanner down and looked at him directly. "Jake, what were you thinking?" "I was thinking about finishing what I started," Jake said. "You could have seriously injured yourself. Heart damage, muscle necrosis, heat stroke." Sarah crossed her arms. "And for what? To prove a point?" Jake didn't answer. He knew she was right. He also knew she didn't understand. Sarah had come to the academy as a medical officer, not a combat trainee. She hadn't spent the last 6 months being looked down on by every other species here. The door to the medical bay slid open. Commander Grant walked in, followed by Instructor Vexina. Both of them looked serious. "How is he, Doctor?" Grant asked. "Recovering faster than he should be," Sarah admitted. "His readings 30 minutes ago suggested he would need at least 2 days of bed rest. Now they suggest he could return to light duty tomorrow." She shook her head. "I don't understand human physiology well enough yet." Vexiner studied Jake with his 4 eyes. Krillians had 2 eyes on each side of their head, giving them nearly complete circular vision. It made it impossible to hide from their gaze. "I have filed my report with the Council of Instructors," Vexner said. "I recommended your immediate dismissal from the Academy for gross insubordination and failure to follow direct orders from multiple superior officers." Jake nodded. He had expected this. "The Council will convene tomorrow morning to review the incident," Grant added. "You'll be required to attend and present your defense." "I don't have a defense, sir," Jake said. "I disobeyed orders. The punishment is dismissal." "You could explain why," Grant suggested. "The Council might show leniency if they understand your reasoning." "My reasoning was that I wanted to do extra burpees," Jake said flatly. "That's not going to sound better in front of a council." Vexiner made a sound like grinding rocks. It might have been a laugh. "No, it will not." After the 2 officers left, Sarah gave Jake a dose of something that would help his muscles recover faster. "You're not supposed to have visitors except medical staff," she said. "But someone has been waiting outside for an hour." "I'll give you 5 minutes." Lyra entered the medical bay cautiously. Her species moved with a natural grace that made every step look like a dance. She carried a small device that projected a holographic display. "I thought you would want to see this," she said. The hologram showed a news feed from the Galactic Network. Jake's face appeared on the screen, frozen in mid-burpee. The headline scrolled beneath in 3 different languages. "Human cadet defies instructors. Completes extreme physical punishment exercise." "It's spreading across the entire network," Lyra explained. "Every major news service is covering it. There are debates happening on dozens of worlds about whether humans are too dangerous to integrate into the military." Jake felt his stomach drop. "I didn't mean to cause an incident." "I know," Lyra said gently. "But you did. My people are arguing about it. The Krillians are arguing about it. Even the Arxians, who never argue about anything, are debating what it means." She switched to another feed. This one showed a panel of military experts discussing human capabilities. One of them, a Krillian general, was gesturing emphatically with all 4 arms. "General Crix is calling for all humans to be removed from the Academy," Lyra translated. "He says your species doesn't respect authority and poses a danger to unit cohesion." "Great," Jake muttered. "But look at this one." Lyra switched feeds again. This broadcast showed a Velsharan admiral being interviewed. "The human showed exceptional determination," the admiral said through the translator. "Perhaps we have underestimated their potential value to the defense force," Such mental fortitude could be exactly what we need in critical situations. Jake watched several more feeds. Opinion was divided. Some species saw his actions as admirable. Others saw them as proof that humans were too primitive for advanced military service. There are protests on 3 different station platforms, Lyra said quietly. Groups demanding that humans be sent back to Earth. Other groups demanding that humans be given full integration immediately. Because I did extra burpees, Jake said. The absurdity of it hit him. One stupid decision in a training hall, and now the entire galaxy was arguing about humanity's place among the stars. The door opened again. Nicole Peters walked in, ignoring Sarah's protest about visiting hours. Nicole was another human trainee, assigned to the tactical operations track. She and Jake had gone through basic orientation together. "You idiot," she said without preamble. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I'm getting a pretty clear picture," Jake replied. "Every human at this academy is now under increased scrutiny," Nicole said. "I had 3 different instructors pull me aside today and ask if all humans are as insubordinate as you. I've been questioned about whether I would follow orders in combat. I'm sorry," Jake said, and meant it. "Sorry doesn't help," Nicole snapped. "We've been working for 6 months to prove we belong here. 6 months of perfect behavior, perfect scores, perfect everything. And you threw it away in one afternoon." "She's not entirely wrong," Lyra said softly. "But she's not entirely right either. Jake, what you did has forced a conversation that needed to happen. The galaxy has been treating humans like children. Maybe it's time they saw what you're really capable of. Capable of ignoring orders and hurting ourselves?" Nicole asked. "That's not the message we want to send." "No," Lyra said. "Capable of pushing beyond what others think is possible." Sarah cleared her throat. "Visiting hours are definitely over. Everyone out except my patient." After they left, Jake lay back on the medical bed. His body still ached, but the medicine was working. He could feel his muscles recovering, knitting themselves back together faster than they should. He thought about the burpees. All 150 of them. Had it been worth it? The answer should have been no. He had damaged his career, created problems for other humans, and made himself the center of unwanted attention across the galaxy. But somewhere deep inside, in a place he didn't like to examine too closely, the answer was yes. Because for one afternoon, the galaxy had stopped treating humans like amusing curiosities. They had stopped patronizing Earth as the primitive newcomer. They had been forced to confront the reality that humans might not fit into their neat categories and expectations. The door opened one more time. An Arxian aide entered, carrying a formal data pad. Arxians looked almost human, except for their golden skin and the fact that they never seemed to blink. "Lieutenant Jake Morrison," the aide said in a formal tone. "You are summoned to appear before Commandant Scholar Qualm tomorrow at 0800 hours. This is a private audience. You will come alone." Jake sat up. "Private audience? Is that normal?" "No," the aide said. "In the 300-year history of this academy, Commandant Qualm has granted fewer than 20 private audiences to cadets. You should consider carefully what this means." The aide left before Jake could ask any more questions. Sarah looked at him with wide eyes. "Qualm wants to see you personally?" "Apparently. Jake, he's the most respected military mind in the galaxy. He's trained generals for every major species. He's older than some civilizations." Sarah paused. "No one sees him unless it's extremely important. Maybe he wants to personally throw me out of the academy," Jake suggested. "Or maybe he wants something else," Sarah said thoughtfully. "Get some rest. You're going to need it." Jake lay back down, but sleep didn't come easy. His mind raced through possibilities. What could the Commandant possibly want with him? What could be so important that it required a private meeting? He thought again about the Burpees, about the way Vexner had stared at him, about the newsfeed spreading across the galaxy, about Nicole's anger and Lyra's support. Everything had changed in the space of an hour. Jake had come to the academy to train as a soldier, to learn how to protect Earth and serve in the greater galactic community. Now he was at the center of a debate about humanity's entire future among the stars, all because he couldn't stop doing burpees when he was told to. Jake almost laughed. It was absurd. It was terrifying. And somehow, in a way he couldn't quite explain, it felt right. Tomorrow he would face the Commandant. Tomorrow he would learn what consequences his actions would bring. But tonight, lying in the medical bay while his body healed itself with that stubborn human persistence, Jake allowed himself a small smile. He had finished all 150. Commandant Scholar Qualm's office occupied the highest level of the Academy's central tower. Jake had never been this high in the station before. Through the massive windows, he could see the curve of Arcturus Prime's hull and the stars beyond, stretching into infinity. The office itself was more like a museum. Artifacts from hundreds of worlds lined the walls. Ancient weapons, military banners, pieces of armor from species Jake didn't recognize. Each one represented a moment in galactic military history. Quam himself stood at the window, his back to Jake. The Arxian was old, perhaps the oldest living being Jake had ever encountered. His golden skin had faded to a pale bronze, and he moved with the careful deliberation of someone who had seen centuries pass. "Sit, Lieutenant Morrison," Quam said without turning around. His voice was soft but carried absolute authority. Jake sat in the chair facing the massive desk. He kept his back straight and his hands on his knees, proper military posture. "Tell me about Earth's military history," Qualm said. The question caught Jake off guard. "Sir, your planet's wars, your conflicts, how humans have fought throughout your history." Qualm finally turned to face him. His eyes were completely black, like pools of ink. Humor an old scholar. Jake thought for a moment. Humans have been fighting wars for our entire recorded history. Thousands of years of conflict over territory, resources, ideology, religion. We've developed countless strategies, weapons, tactics. And during these wars, did your soldiers ever refuse to give up even when defeat was certain? Yes, sir. Many times. Last stands are common in human military history. Soldiers holding positions against impossible odds. Fighting to the last person. Quell moved to his desk and activated a holographic display. Images of Earth appeared, rotating slowly. "I have studied your world extensively since your species applied for Academy admission. Your planet is remarkable, Lieutenant Morrison. Sir, most civilized species evolved on what you would call gentle worlds. Stable climates, moderate gravity, breathable atmospheres with low oxygen content, minimal dangerous predators." Qualm gestured to the image of Earth. "Your world is none of these things." Jake had heard this before. Earth was classified as a high-gravity death world with dangerous atmospheric composition and extreme environmental variation. "Your species evolved under tremendous pressure," Qualm continued. "You developed persistence hunting, the ability to chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. You learned to survive temperature swings that would kill most galactic species. You adapted to an oxygen-rich atmosphere that we consider mildly toxic. I'm aware Earth is considered harsh, sir." "Harsh?" Quell made a sound like wind through leaves. It might have been a laugh. "Lieutenant, there are only 7 known worlds in the galaxy classified as severe as Earth. 3 of them produce species, too aggressive for space travel. They destroyed themselves in nuclear wars. 2 produce species that never developed advanced technology. 1 produced the Krillians, who are our finest warriors. He paused, studying Jake with those black eyes. And one produced humans, who do 100 extra burpees when ordered to stop. Jake felt his face flush. Sir, about that. Qualm held up a hand. I know why you did it. The question is, do you understand what it revealed? That I don't follow orders well? That you don't have the same concept of physical limits as other species, Qualm corrected. Tell me, when did you decide to stop? Jake thought back to the training hall. When I reached 150. Why that number? I had planned to do 50 extra. 100 total seemed like a good round number. But when I got to 100, I realized I could do 50 more. And if you had reached 150 and still felt capable, would you have continued to 200? Jake considered the question honestly. Probably, sir. Qualm nodded slowly. Most species stop when their bodies tell them to stop. Pain is a signal to cease activity. Exhaustion is a command to rest. But humans seem to view these signals as suggestions rather than commands. He moved to one of the display cases and removed a small medal. This belonged to a Krillian war hero. He held a defensive position for 3 days against enemy forces. When relief arrived, he collapsed and required 2 weeks of medical treatment. He is remembered as the greatest example of Krillian endurance in modern history. Qualm set the medal down and looked at Jake. By human standards, 3 days is merely impressive, not legendary. Your species has documented cases of soldiers fighting for weeks with minimal food, water, or rest. You have athletes who run for 24 hours straight for recreation. We're stubborn, sir, Jake said quietly. You're extraordinary, Qualm corrected. And that presents both an opportunity and a problem. He returned to his desk and pulled up files on his display. Every species that joined this academy faced a breaking point test. We push cadets to their limits to understand where those limits are. For tactical purposes, we must know when a soldier will break. Jake's stomach tightened. The punishment exercise was a test? Partially. Instructor Vexener was ordered to push you beyond normal parameters. The 50 burpees were legitimate punishment for questioning doctrine. What happened after that was entirely your choice. And I chose to keep going. You chose to do triple the assigned punishment, Qualm said. Other species typically stop when ordered. They accept instructor authority. The Velsharen feel shame at disappointing superiors. The Krillians respect the chain of command, absolutely. The Arxians trust that instructors know best. He leaned forward. Humans apparently do none of these things. Jake didn't know what to say. Was this good or bad? Had he passed the test or failed it? Let me ask you a philosophical question, Lieutenant. Why do humans ignore pain? We don't ignore it, sir. We feel it just as much as anyone else. But you continue through it. Why? Jake struggled to put it into words. Because pain is temporary. Giving up lasts forever. My instructors in basic training used to say that pain is just weakness leaving the body. An interesting philosophy. Most species view pain as the body's warning system. You view it as something to overcome. Humans evolved on a world that didn't care about our pain, Jake said. If we stopped every time something hurt, we would never have survived. We learned to push through. Qualm was quiet for a long moment. There is a threat emerging in deep space, Lieutenant Morrison. We don't speak of it openly because we don't want to cause panic. But scouting ships have found entire colonies eliminated. No survivors. No apparent cause. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The Galactic Defense Force is preparing for a possible conflict with an unknown enemy. We need soldiers who are technically proficient, yes. But we also need soldiers who don't break easily, who don't quit when the situation seems hopeless. And you think humans might be those soldiers? I think humans might be exactly what the galaxy needs, Qualm said. But I need to know if your performance yesterday was exceptional or typical. I need to understand if all humans share this trait, or if you're an outlier. He stood and walked around the desk. I'm offering you a choice, Lieutenant Morrison. You can accept a formal reprimand for insubordination and continue standard training. Your career will likely suffer, but you'll graduate eventually. Or, sir, or you can volunteer for an experimental program. We call it the Crucible. It will test human limits far beyond 150 burpees. It will push you and other human volunteers to breaking points we haven't fully defined yet. You may fail. You may be injured. You will certainly suffer. Qualm met his eyes. But if you succeed, you will prove that humans deserve not just a place in the galactic military, but a prominent role. You will change how the galaxy sees your entire species. Jake's mind raced. This was enormous. This was terrifying. This was exactly the kind of impossible challenge that humans were supposedly built for. How long do I have to decide, sir? 1 hour, Qualm said. I need soldiers who make decisions under pressure. Jake stood. I don't need an hour, sir. I volunteer. You haven't heard the details. I don't need the details. If this can help humanity earn respect in the galaxy, I'm in. Qualm studied him for a long moment. You understand that you may fail? That failure could damage humanity's reputation worse than never trying? Yes, sir. You understand that I cannot protect you if the program proves too difficult? That you may wash out and face dismissal? Yes, sir. And you still volunteer? Just like that? Jake thought about the burpees. About the way the galaxy had reacted. About Nicole's anger and Lyra's hope and the news feeds spreading across hundreds of worlds. Sir, humans have a saying. In for a penny, in for a pound. I already started this when I did those extra burpees. Might as well see it through. Qualm's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. Report to Training Hall 7 tomorrow at 0600 hours. Bring nothing but your determination. Yes, sir. One more thing, Lieutenant. 5 other humans have volunteered. You'll be training as a unit. Jake felt surprise mixed with relief. He wouldn't be alone in this. Dismissed. Jake saluted and turned to leave. He had almost reached the door when Qualm spoke again. Lieutenant Morrison? For what it's worth, I believe you made the right choice yesterday. The galaxy needs to be reminded that soft limits are not hard limits. That physical capability and mental determination are not the same thing. That sometimes. Training Hall 7 was smaller than the main facility, but built with reinforced walls and advanced medical monitoring systems. Jake arrived at 0550 hours and found 5 other humans already waiting. He recognized all of them from around the academy. Nicole Peters stood with her arms crossed, looking unhappy. Danny Fisher paced nervously near the wall. Lisa Martinez sat in a meditation pose, breathing slowly. Kevin Boyd was doing stretches, and Amy Richardson was reviewing something on a datapad. Morning, Jake said. Nicole glared at him. This is your fault, you know? I know. I was perfectly happy in tactical operations. My grades were excellent. I was on track for a good assignment after graduation. She gestured around the room. Now I'm volunteering to be tortured because you couldn't stop doing burpees. No one forced you to volunteer, Jake pointed out. No, just the weight of human dignity and the future of Earth's role in galactic society, Nicole said sarcastically. No pressure at all. Danny stopped pacing. Do we even know what this program involves? Pain, probably, Kevin said, still stretching. Lots of pain. I read the preliminary briefing, Amy said, looking up from her datapad. The Crucible program is designed to establish baseline human performance under extreme conditions. We'll undergo tests that push physical and mental limits. Define extreme, Danny said nervously. They didn't define it. That's what worries me. The door opened. Instructor Vexner entered, followed by 3 other instructors Jake didn't recognize. Behind them came Commandant Qualm and a group of officials wearing military observer badges. "Attention," Vexner commanded. All 6 humans snapped to attention. Qualm moved to the center of the room. "You have volunteered for the Crucible program. This program has one goal: to determine human operational limits under combat-relevant conditions. You will be tested physically, mentally, and emotionally. The results will inform how Earth's military integrates with galactic forces." He paused, his black eyes scanning each of them. "You may withdraw at any time without penalty. Participation is entirely voluntary. However, if you choose to continue, you will follow all instructions exactly as given. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir," all 6 responded. "The first phase begins immediately. You will undergo continuous combat simulations for 72 hours with no sleep. You will receive minimal food and water. You will face scenarios designed to create decision fatigue and stress. 72 hours. 3 days. No sleep. Jake saw Danny's face go pale. Lisa's meditation breathing stopped. Even Nicole looked worried. Most species begin experiencing severe cognitive impairment after 36 hours without sleep, one of the observer officials said into a recording device. Galactic military protocol prohibits extended operations beyond 48 hours for this reason. Humans are not most species, Quam said. That is what we're here to determine. The simulation began within minutes. They were thrown into a virtual combat scenario, fighting against enemy forces in an urban environment. The room's holographic systems created a completely immersive experience. The enemies looked real. The weapons felt real. The danger seemed real. After 6 hours, Jake's reflexes started to slow. After 12 hours, he felt genuine exhaustion setting in. After 18 hours, keeping his eyes open became a challenge. But he kept fighting. They all did. Nicole proved to be brilliant at tactical coordination, calling out enemy positions and coordinating their defense. Lisa's marksmanship was incredible, even as fatigue set in. Kevin dominated in hand-to-hand combat. Amy quickly adapted to changing scenarios, anticipating enemy movements. Danny struggled at first, but found his rhythm in support roles, covering their backs and providing suppressing fire. 24 hours passed. Then 36. The alien observers whispered among themselves, taking notes, recording data. Jake heard fragments of their conversations. Impossible. They should be hallucinating by now. Look at their vital signs. Still stable. The human brain operates differently than we thought. At 48 hours, something strange happened. Instead of getting worse, Jake started to feel better. Not rested, but focused. His mind had moved past exhaustion into a kind of clarity. The others seemed to experience the same thing. Second wind, Kevin said during a brief lull in the fighting. Read about it in Human Physiology. Body finds emergency reserves. They completed the full 72 hours. When the simulation finally ended, all 6 humans were still standing. Still functional, still ready to continue if ordered. The observers looked stunned. Vexner approached Jake with what might have been respect in his 4 eyes. "I owe you an apology, Lieutenant Morrison," the Krillian said quietly. "I did not understand what I was seeing in the training hall. I thought you were being reckless. Now I see you were simply being human." Over the following weeks, the tests continued. They underwent temperature tolerance trials, spending hours in environments that swung from extreme heat to extreme cold. They ran endurance courses that would have broken most species. They faced psychological stress tests designed to break their will. Through it all, they adapted. They endured. They pushed through. Jake became the unofficial leader, not because he was the strongest or smartest, but because he set the pace. When Danny wanted to quit during a high-altitude, low-oxygen test, Jake kept going, and Danny followed. When Nicole hit a wall during a long-distance run, Jake slowed his pace to match hers and talked her through it. Lyra visited between training sessions, bringing news from the academy. "The entire galaxy is watching," she said. "There are betting pools on whether you'll complete the program. Some species think you're insane. Others think you're heroes. We're neither," Jake said. "We're just doing what needs to be done." "That's very human of you," Lyra said with a small smile. But the real test came during week 4. The Crucible team was sent on a survival exercise to a hostile moon orbiting Arcturus Prime. The environment was brutal. Toxic atmosphere requiring respirators, high gravity, extreme temperature swings, and dangerous wildlife. The mission was simple. Trek 50 kilometers across the terrain to reach an extraction point. Survive for 3 days with minimal supplies. They made it 30 kilometers before disaster struck. Danny was crossing a narrow ridge when the ground gave way beneath him. He fell 20 feet onto sharp rocks. By the time they reached him, it was clear the damage was serious. His leg was broken, possibly his ribs too. He was conscious but in severe pain. Standard protocol was clear. Call for emergency extraction. And the exercise. Jake activated his communicator to call it in. But before he could speak, Danny grabbed his arm. "Don't," Danny gasped. "We can make it." "You're seriously injured," Lisa said. "We need to get you to medical." "We're 30 kilometers in," Danny said through gritted teeth. 20 to go. We've come too far to quit." Nicole knelt beside him. "Danny, this isn't about quitting. You need medical attention." "I need us to finish," Danny said. "We all do. The whole galaxy is watching, remember? We call for extraction now. We prove them right. Humans can't handle the tough missions." "You could have internal bleeding," Amy said, scanning him with her medical kit. "Broken ribs might have punctured a lung." "Then we better hurry," Danny said. Jake looked at the others. He saw the same conflict in their eyes. The right decision, the safe decision, was to call for extraction. But the human decision, the stubborn refusal to quit decision, was to continue. "We improvise a stretcher," Jake said finally. "We carry him." "That's insane," Nicole said. But there was something in her voice that wasn't disagreement. It was the same thing Jake felt. The same thing that made him do extra burpees when ordered to stop. They built a stretcher from their emergency supplies and spare equipment. They took turns carrying Danny, 2 people at a time, while the others navigated and kept watch for threats. The remaining 20 kilometers took them 28 hours of continuous movement through hostile terrain. Jake's shoulders burned from carrying the stretcher. His legs screamed with each step in the high gravity. The respirator made every breath an effort, but he kept walking. They all did. When they finally reached the extraction point, medical teams were waiting. They rushed Danny onto a ship for immediate treatment. Commander Grant was there too, along with Commandant Quelm and what seemed like half the Academy's command staff. Jake stood at attention, covered in dirt and sweat, barely able to stand. "Sir, we completed the exercise." "I know," Quelm said quietly. "We tracked your progress the entire way. We debated forcing an extraction when Cadet Fisher was injured. Why didn't you, sir?" "Because I wanted to see what you would do. Whether you would make the smart decision or the human decision." Jake swayed on his feet. "And which one did we make, sir?" "Both," Quelm said. "You completed the mission while ensuring your teammates survived. You adapted to impossible circumstances and found a way forward. That is exactly what the galaxy needs right now." Jake's legs finally gave out. He collapsed to his knees, then caught himself with his hands. Around him, the other 4 humans were in similar states of exhaustion, but they had made it. All of them. Together. As medical teams helped them to the transport, Jake looked back at the hostile moon's surface. 20 kilometers carrying an injured teammate through terrain designed to break them. And they had done it. The Crucible program had pushed them to their limits and beyond. And they had pushed back. The Council of Instructors convened in the Academy's Grand Hall 3 days after the survival exercise ended. Jake sat in the front row alongside Nicole, Lisa, Kevin, and Amy. Danny was still in the medical bay, but recovering well. The broken leg and 2 cracked ribs would heal completely within a few weeks, according to Dr. Sarah Collins. The hall was filled with observers from across the galaxy. Military officials, government representatives, news crews, and curious cadets packed every available space. The debate about humanity's role in galactic defense had reached a critical point. Commandant Qualm stood at the center of the raised platform. Around him sat representatives from each major species in the Galactic Defense Force. The Krillian representative was General Crix, the same one who had called for all humans to be removed from the Academy. "We are here to evaluate the results of the Crucible program," Qualm began. "For 6 weeks, we have tested human physical and mental capabilities under combat-relevant conditions. The data has been analyzed. Now we must decide what it means for the future of human integration into our military forces." A holographic display activated, showing performance metrics and comparison charts. Jake saw his own name listed alongside test results that seemed impossible even to him. The humans completed 72 hours of continuous combat simulation without sleep, an Arxian analyst reported. This exceeds previous records by 40%. Their cognitive function declined minimally. Decision-making remained sound throughout. They demonstrated exceptional temperature tolerance, another analyst added, surviving conditions that would require protective equipment for most species. Most significantly, Qualm said, they completed a survival exercise while carrying an injured teammate across hostile terrain. Standard protocol would have required evacuation. They chose to continue. General Crick stood, all 4 of his arms gesturing. This is exactly the problem. Humans don't follow protocol. They make reckless decisions. They endanger themselves and others with their refusal to accept limitations. Or, a Velsharan admiral countered, they demonstrate initiative and adaptability that could be valuable in fluid combat situations. The debate erupted. Different species had different opinions. Some saw human stubbornness as dangerous. Others saw it as potentially revolutionary. Jake watched it all, feeling the weight of hundreds of eyes on him. His actions, his choices, had led to this moment. Whatever the council decided would affect not just him, but every human who wanted to serve in space. Finally, Instructor Vexner stood. The room quieted. The Krillian was one of the most respected combat instructors in the galaxy. "I was Lieutenant Morrison's primary instructor during the Crucible program," Vexner said. "I filed the original report recommending his dismissal for insubordination. I believed he was reckless and dangerous." He paused, his 4 eyes finding Jake in the crowd. "I was wrong." A murmur ran through the hall. What I witnessed over the past 6 weeks was not recklessness. It was not stupidity or disregard for authority. It was a different approach to the concept of limitations. Vexner's voice carried clearly. "We teach cadets to know their limits and operate within them. Humans seem to teach themselves to expand their limits and operate beyond them." He activated his own data display, showing tactical analyses from the combat simulations. In 17 separate scenarios, the human team faced situations that should have resulted in failure. Instead, they adapted. When exhaustion should have impaired their judgment, they found focus. When pain should have stopped them, they pushed through. When logic said to retreat, they found a way to advance. Vexner looked directly at General Crix. "The galaxy faces threats we don't fully understand. Unknown enemies are eliminating colonies. We need soldiers who can adapt to the unexpected. We need soldiers who don't break when situations exceed normal parameters. He gestured to the 6 humans. I believe we have found such soldiers. You would trust them in combat? Crix challenged. I would be honored to serve alongside them, Vexner said simply. The statement sent shock waves through the hall. A Krillian combat instructor, volunteering to serve with humans. It was unprecedented. Other instructors stood and shared their observations. Some remained skeptical, but the tide was clearly shifting. The raw data was impossible to ignore. Humans had performed beyond expectations in every measurable category. Finally, Qualm called for a vote. The council would decide whether to fully integrate humans into the academy without restrictions, limit them to specific roles, or recommend their removal from the program. Jake held his breath as each representative cast their vote. It was close. Some species voted for full integration. Others voted for restrictions. A few voted for removal. When the final tally appeared on the display, Jake felt his heart skip. By a narrow margin, the council had voted for full integration. Qualm stood. Effective immediately, human cadets will participate in all academy programs without restriction. The Crucible training methodology will be adapted for future human cadets. Furthermore, I am recommending the formation of specialized human units within the Galactic Defense Force, designed to handle situations requiring extended endurance and adaptability. He looked at the 6 humans. Cadets Morrison, Peters, Fisher, Martinez, Boyd, and Richardson are hereby promoted to advanced status. They will serve as instructors for the next generation of human cadets. The hall erupted in mixed reactions. Some species applauded. Others looked concerned. The human cadets in attendance cheered loudly. Jake felt Nicole grab his arm. She was smiling for the first time in weeks. We did it, she said. We actually did it. After the council session ended, Commander Grant pulled the 6 of them aside. His expression was serious but proud. What you accomplished here will echo across the galaxy, he said. Earth's defense forces are being expanded. We've received applications from 12 species requesting joint training with human units. You've changed everything. We just did what we had to do, sir, Jake said. That's what makes it so powerful, Grant replied. You weren't trying to be heroes. You were just being human. And that turned out to be exactly what the galaxy needed to see. Over the following days, Jake and the others began their new roles as advanced cadets and future instructors. The Academy's atmosphere had shifted. Where before they faced skepticism, now they received respect. Other cadets asked to train with them. Instructors sought their input on human capabilities. Lyra found Jake in the training hall one evening. He was alone, doing exercises. I should have known I'd find you here, she said. Jake finished his set and stood. Just maintaining standards. You're doing burpees, she observed. Yeah. How many? I'm aiming for 150. Lyra laughed. Of course you are. May I ask why? Jake thought about it. When I first did them, it was about proving a point. About stubbornness. About refusing to quit. He paused. Now it's different. It's about maintaining the standard we set. We showed the galaxy what humans can do. Now we have to keep doing it. That sounds exhausting, Lyra said gently. It is, Jake admitted. But someone has to set the example. Might as well be us. They walked together through the academy corridors. Jake saw human cadets training alongside aliens without any special treatment or restrictions. He saw instructors incorporating human endurance techniques into their teaching. He saw the beginnings of something new. The reports about the unknown threat in deep space are getting worse, Lyra said quietly. More colonies have gone silent. Whatever is out there, it's getting closer. Then it's good we're preparing, Jake said. Are you scared? Terrified, Jake said honestly. But that's okay. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what needs to be done despite the fear. Lyra stopped walking. You humans have a strange way of looking at the universe. Everything is a challenge to overcome. Every obstacle is something to push through. Don't you ever just accept that some things are impossible? Jake smiled. No, because usually they're not impossible. They're just hard. And humans are pretty good at hard. They reached the viewing platform overlooking the stars. Jake stood there, looking out at the infinite darkness dotted with light. Somewhere out there was Earth, a harsh world that had forged a stubborn species. A planet that most of the galaxy considered barely habitable. Home, and somewhere else out there was an unknown threat. Something that could eliminate entire colonies. Something the galactic military was preparing to face. Jake thought about the path that had led him here. From questioning tactics in class, to punishment burpees, to the Crucible program, to this moment. One decision had led to another, each one pushing him further than he thought he could go. Do you ever regret it? Lyra asked. Those extra burpees? All the pain and struggle that followed? Jake considered the question seriously. The honest answer was complicated. He had suffered. His teammates had suffered. They had all pushed themselves to the brink of breaking, but they hadn't broken. And in not breaking, they had proven something vital. No, Jake said finally. I don't regret it. Because it needed to happen. The galaxy needed to see what humans are capable of. Not our technology or our weapons. Just our refusal to give up. And now you'll train others to have that same refusal? We'll try. But honestly, I don't think it's something you can teach. It's something humans just are. He smiled. We're stubborn. It's our defining.